Chris!
Heath,
Man, I hate games.
do you? I'm kind of surprised you're a co-host on a video game podcast.
No, I like them. It's just, there's so much I hate.
Why don't you elaborate?
Should I get into it?
Yeah,
On
that's
this
what we're here
episode
for.
of Mobius Tubes.
Episode 4 of Mobius Tubes.
Can you believe we're still around?
We have some serious lasting power here.
Well, it's not like there's another pair of dudes outside the door waiting to use the studio space.
No, or we have it on lockdown.
Yeah. So, happy holidays.
Yeah,
This is the first episode after Christmas,
it is the post-holiday depression season.
which is why
For the listeners at home, Heath has stood up and left the microphone. Oh my gosh.
Merry Christmas.
No way! You've got me a gift. All right, I'm gonna live open it while we record. This is so thoughtful. It's a rectangle. Oh no! Oh my gosh! What did you get me? No way! You got.
Songs from the game.
For the listeners at home, Heath purchased for me a copy of Octopath Traveler,
Yay!
one of the best role-playing games of the year. I'm so touched.
You're welcome.
This was completely unexpected.
Well, I mean, it serves my best interest as now you could have more fuel for the docket.
I guess. Wow, I feel awful. I don't have anything for you to open right now.
Nah, don't worry about it. Just let me body you in Smash. Throw your matches.
This is so unexpected. Wow.
How was your week?
It's markedly better now.
Yay!
My week was good, and I have to say, out of all the times we've sat down to record a podcast so far, I'm probably the most excited for this episode.
Why's that?
I think we have some very fun topics to discuss today.
Cool.
So I did something last night. I finished up the World of Light campaign for Smash Bros. Ultimate.
I have yet to finish it.
I think it's
long.
It's fair to say it's longer than it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think you could have trimmed 1/3 to maybe 1/2 of the whole campaign, and no one would have cared.
I mean, Sakurai might have cared.
Could be. My final time clocked in at 20 hours. My completion percentage is hovering around 70%, so I'm by no means, I didn't clear the board or anything. And a good portion of the time, I just turned it down to easy. I'm a casual, just wanted to get through it. Challenging myself through World of Light is not one of my priorities.
I'm probably 22 hours in, but like halfway there.
Are you playing on medium?
I turned the lightning off.
The lightning?
Oh, spoilers. Yes, I'm playing on normal.
Very good.
Dude, it's like I appreciate the gimmick, and it's really frustrating when you have a metal guy that doesn't flinch, and you just get wasted trying to do tilt attacks. I don't know how to play Smash.
The metal enemies are definitely a nuisance, especially if they're unflinching.
Gosh, what was the one shopkeeper who had an item that when Shulk like puts it on you, you just float off screen. No matter how hard I mash, I just get taken off the top, and it's so frustrating.
I didn't interact with any of the shopkeepers. I just flew by those. What happens? What can you do at an item store?
It just sells you more spirits.
Got it. As you would probably expect.
Is that it for World of Light?
I'll say the very end, I reached what I thought was going to be the ending of World of Light too many times to count.
Interesting.
And when at the actual very final end, apparently this game has multiple endings too. I looked it up. I think I got...
Is this Nier Automata?
I think I got the true ending. You'll probably realize when you're there and how to get the different endings. But the final encounter, the final fight, does something very unexpected, which I won't spoil for you here. But you get to take control of a fighter you may not expect to.
Sans! Undertale.
That would be sweet.
You get control of the announcer.
So good final climax to the game, but Otherwise, there's maybe a little too much fat on the bones.
To the adventure mode.
To the adventure mode.
Yes. What are you going to dive into online? Try to get Elite Smash?
I don't need to have my self-confidence bodied like my Smash characters. Probably won't be diving into online very much. I did just finish unlocking the whole roster though, so I have the full list of characters, eagerly awaiting the arrival of Piranha Plant.
I'm still missing like one character. I think it's like Mii Brawler. So I basically have all the characters.
Make sure you register your game if you haven't already. Nintendo will send you a code in your email.
Isn't it like January 19th?
Yeah, you have time.
Okay. Yeah, Smash is fun. I don't consider myself a saint of a person. You know, I don't donate to charity or things like that, but I think I made up for any transgressions in the past over this holiday season by just getting bodied by children all weekend long. Smash gives you an online ranking that's different from other multiplayer games in which you have a score that represents you're better than this many people. So the top players in the world aren't going to be number one. Like the top 10 are going to have scores in like the 2 millions, 3 millions.
Got it.
And you have a ranking for each character.
Okay.
They give you a default ranking of like 200,000. And then when you start playing, it's like, okay, this is actually how good you are. So 200,000 seems a little high, but I don't think it should be nearly the 18,000 that I've sunk to.
18,000?
Yeah, go home and check your GSP for your best character and tell me whether or not it's still in the 5 digits.
Okay. So you're saying you've sunk below the default value?
I can tell you that I've played 90 minutes worth of matches, but I only have like 12 wins.
Okay. What's your win ratio approximately?
I wish it's on the system and I can't figure it out. It goes by character, so it's hard for me to check. But we could check after this.
Sure.
But bottom line is, I don't have to do anything philanthropic for another decade with the amount of
wins you're handing out,
like prepubescent kids that I just lost to, making their holidays brighter.
It's tough to get good at fighting games. I don't have the knack for it.
Dude, I want to get good because I sat down and I was like, okay, how many points do I need to get to Elite Smash? And you need like 450,000.
Wow.
Which is at least 100 times further than I am right now. So, progress needs to be made.
Sure thing. Well, maybe 2019 will be your year to rank up the Smash ladder.
I mean, I'm watching Zero and Nairo. These are guys on Twitch. The things that they do are crazy. Because I so often, I think my greatest bad habit is trying to do grabs just way too far away.
Okay.
Grabbing
is a mechanic I ignore a solid 99% of the time.
As do my sister and parents when they first have the controller. Yeah, that button is lost to them. They love jumping, though.
You mentioned Zero, the competitive Smash Bros. Player.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned him. I just happened to watch a YouTube documentary on him on a whim.
Oh, you watched the doc? The Smash Bros. Doc. No, he's not in it.
This was a documentary, I don't know, it was like 10 minutes long, only dedicated to Zero.
Okay.
His specifically his Smash Bros. For Wii U career.
Okay, how was it?
It was
the
it
doc,
was fun.
Not the career.
The doc was pretty well put together. I wouldn't strongly require you to go seek it out or anything.
Okay, because I would require you to strongly seek out the Melee doc.
Okay.
I forget what it's like. The Smash Bros, but people will know what I'm talking about when I say like the Smash documentary. It's really good. You could break up the Smash community for a time into 2 categories. The people who were playing it before they saw the doc and the people who started playing it because of the doc.
It's a very influential piece then.
Also, why are we calling it doc? It's a documentary. I'm sorry. I don't know if I started that, but it's uppity. Yeah, it's a good documentary, and I'll have to check the Zero one out.
Do we have anything else we want to discuss about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate?
I'm so bad. I'm not gonna. This is the last episode of 2018. Check back with me the last episode of 2019, and we'll see if I have any characters in Elite Smash.
Well, you'll probably be an expert with Joker, because he's going to be your new main, right?
Of course. He has a gun. Yeah, did I have anything else to talk about with Smash? Oh, well, let's talk about, okay, one thing that I noticed while I was playing Smash. Does your Nintendo Switch have the weirdest vibration sounds? It's not like HD rumble. It sounds like someone's flicking a water balloon.
You hear this while you're holding the controller?
I mean, when I get smashed, it just sounds like
and these are the
Jello.mp3.
It's the Joy-Cons producing this noise?
No, well, when it's in handheld mode, yeah. Because you don't... Yeah, it doesn't vibrate like this when you're in the grips.
I have not noticed any noises reminiscent of Jello just yet.
It's weird. It's like an alien trying to communicate with me.
It sounds awfully weird when I lay the controller down on my desk and then it starts rumbling. So loud.
Yeah, like a Chewbacca thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, questionable choices there, Nintendo, on your vibration sounds, as if you could control that.
I'm sure it's justified if we were to purchase 1-2 Switch and then do the minigame where you're rolling balls around a cup and you try to figure out how many balls are in your Joy-Con.
Really?
And it's communicated to you through the HD rumble.
Oh, I forgot about that one. All I know about 1-2 Switch is a sword catching game, and there's probably an archery one. But that sounds intricate.
It's probably the game I would like to try the most, but nowhere near justifies purchasing 1-2 Switch.
Nah, save your pennies for that Labo instead.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's Smash. I was going to say, in addition to Smash, I also played everyone's favorite crossover game in which you unlock and fight with your favorite characters from various franchises, Broforce.
I think I've heard of this game.
It's by Devolver.
It's like a 2D game, right?
Yeah, it's a platformer, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, you start out flying to foreign lands like Cambodia. They broify everything, right? So you first go in with Rambro. You clear the level, and all you have to do is get to the chopper. You earn extra lives by rescuing captives, and if you rescue enough captives, you will unlock a new bro, like Command Bro, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger gets 3 characters in this game.
That hardly seems fair.
Well, he's some of the best. Like the Terminator, you can turn on. Everyone's got like a special. So the Terminator, you turn on like an exoskeleton, and you can eat bullets no problem. I beat this game on hard, and it is the most difficult game I think I've ever played. I haven't beaten Sans, but I would just catch so many stray bullets. I think the only difference between normal and hard is the enemy lag. As soon as they see you, they'll like fire off a shot. Sometimes I would just jump at the wrong time and get wasted. There's a highlight on my Twitch channel. I played one mission for like 47 minutes, and it's like a covert op, and I won't spoil it, but I get to like the very end and I choke in the best way.
By covert op, is there any kind of like stealth mechanic, or is it very...
Well, I was playing it very stealthily at first. The regular mooks, the grunts, they're unaware that you're there. And some of the bros have silenced weapons, so you can take advantage of that. But if you beat Phantom Pain and you're like, oh, what's the next stealth experience? Don't reach for Broforce. It's an endearing action platformer that if you want a challenge, there are moments, if you watch the highlight, where I'm at like wit's end, but the voice actor who's like, let's go, bros. You know, he's like the 3, 2, 1, go. You know, it's the most like, I gotta beat this. He got me through it.
He provided you the motivation you were lacking.
Yes. So Broforce is a lot of fun. It may appear in my top 10 games I played in 2018.
Ooh, giving the listeners a sneak peek.
Yeah. Other games I played? I played The Messenger, which is also
really?
by a developer, yeah.
Devolver?
Did I say developer?
By developer.
They're the best new developer.
Wow, that's so Messenger.
Devolver.
One of kind of a Metroidvania game?
Okay, so it turns Metroidvania towards the end.
That has some really cool pixel art in it.
It does. It's supposed to be like a NES or SNES art style. I don't care for that art style that much, even though Broforce is something similar with its pixely look. I don't really seek it out. Platformers are like rappers. Like, I could see why other people enjoy them, but, you know, most of them feel the same. You know, rappers.
Got it, yeah.
With the exception of, like, the mega popular ones, like Mario and Zelda.
I have a question for you.
Go for it.
2018 had a deluge of Metroidvania side-scrolling platforming games, from your Hollow Knights, which released on Switch this year, to your Guacamelee 2s, Dead Cells, The Messenger. We got a lot of Metroidvania games this year. What made you gravitate towards The Messenger?
Well, I got a bunch of Devolver games through Twitch Prime.
Got it.
So I got Hotline Miami, The Messenger, Broforce, couple other ones, Hotline Miami 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be playing those and giving you the hot scoop, but would I have just sought it out? I'm interested to play Hollow Knight. That one looks cool. But The Messenger, yeah.
I have one game I could bring up on this podcast that I played this past week, but I'm anticipating this podcast episode to be so jam-packed with content that I don't think we have time for it.
All right.
I think I'll have to save it for the new year.
Okay. What would you prefer talking about? Oh, should we do corrections?
Yeah, we need to make sure everything is accurate.
All right. Concave is a depression. Convex is raised. That should be simple enough. Sorry about episode title of last one, but yeah, the buttons on the Xbox adaptive controller are convex.
Got it.
That's it for corrections.
All right. Somehow we made it through last episode pretty smoothly then.
Quite.
So, our kind of featured topic this episode is our top 10 games that we played in 2018. Now, this is the time of year where video game critics across the industry break down their experience from the past year and rank the top 10 games that released in 2018, and they give their list.
But who has time to play all of those?
Right, so we had to adapt the criteria of the list a little bit, because if I were tasked with making a top 10 2018 releases that I played, my top 10 list would be two games.
Oh boy, Smash
two
and God
games
of
long.
War.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming in at number 3.
The Messenger.
Yeah.
In general, how do you feel about top 10 lists ranking video games? Do you find them to be kind of clickbaity and shallow, or do you get enjoyment out of them?
I get enjoyment out of them. I saw a Polygon video that was the top 50, and they did entries in 7 words or less. And I remember one of them was like, what if No Man's Sky, but good?
What game was that?
That was,
It wasn't Subnautica, was it?
No, Subnautica was like Lovecraftian horror got a facelift or something like that. The one that got the No Man's Sky but good was No Man's Sky Next.
Okay, the latest update.
The update, not the expansion or anything.
I also love consuming top 10 lists. I think they're a valuable way to kind of compartmentalize an entire year into a concise format, just summing up this span of time we spent playing video games and kind of chronicling it as a record. And it's also a good way to Remember any games that might have slipped through your cracks that you maybe never heard about or didn't get around to?
Like, did you know a Hitman game came out this year?
Hitman 2.
Shout out to Super Bunny Hop. He had a video about Hitman 2. Looks awesome. Because I played... What Hitman did I play? Like, I beat it, too. It had to be one of the Hitmans that was available through Xbox Games with Gold.
Okay. Maybe Absolution?
The last mission... The last mission has you fight, like, 3 super soldiers in a big ruins. Get to it, Internet.
That sounds like a very stealthy encounter.
But yeah, lots of games came out, and that was a good way for me to remember that they came out.
So, we've ranked the games we played and experienced this year and put them in a top 10 format for you to listen to. This is the first time this has come in handy, actually. I keep very meticulous records about how many games I play each year. So I have 2 pieces of statistics for you. I played in total 35 games in 2018.
Holy cow.
And of those 35, 30 were games that were new to me, aka games I had not played before.
Okay.
So this wasn't necessarily a requirement of our list, but I limited my top 10 to be selected from games that were new to me. I didn't include any games I was replaying this year. Would you like me to kick off my list with number 10?
Go for it.
Okay. Here's a game that just made it onto my top 10, squeaked in at the last second. A game I've already spent a great deal of time talking about on this podcast, so I won't dive in with too much more detail. But at number 10, I put Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. A 2017 release. It's a very good Dishonored game. The only reason it doesn't quite measure up to the past Dishonored games is because the bar was set so high. A game I'm eagerly looking forward to doing a second playthrough of. I didn't talk a great deal about the powers that are present in this game and what new stuff it brings to the table. Your selection of powers is more limited than previous Dishonored games. You've only got really three big ones here. But the different applications that you can use these powers are maybe greater than past Dishonored games. You can one lets you like scope out an area in kind of a disembodied form. So you're not actually running through an area, but you can like float through it and tag guards.
Oh, kind of like Beyond Two Souls?
Kind of like, I believe in Assassin's Creed Origins, you have a pet eagle that you can like scout out an area.
Okay.
And like tag things and label them on your map. This is basically that. What's cool about this is the teleportation ability in Death of the Outsider. It's called Displace. And you set a marker somewhere on the map, and then once you hit the Displace button, you immediately teleport to that marker. So unlike Blink in the previous games where you're kind of just picking somewhere in your general vicinity to blink to,
yeah.
Now you can go much further away if you set it up in advance. So you can combine these 2 abilities, scope out an area with your disembodied form, place your marker super far away from you, then you immediately return back to your real body, and you can immediately displace all the way over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that feels like it'd be a super cheat in other games.
Right.
There was a speed run of Fallout 4 in which the runner glitches the crouching mechanic and causes the character to fly toward the center of the map. You ever hear the expression, make bugs a feature? It's not a bug, it's a feature?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did in Dishonored. They took the Fallout 4 crouch bug and made it, what'd you call it, displacing?
Displacing.
Yeah.
A key gameplay mechanic.
Ship it.
So I commend them for the creativity and the ways you can combine the powers in this game. That's all I have to say about Dishonored: Death of the Outsider.
Well, I guess I will go and introduce my top 10, and it is a top 10 game that I played this year, and it is the Stanley Parable. So we graduated this year, or no,
yes.
You graduated last year.
The very tail end,
technically,
of December 2017.
Yes, and I can recall during my last few years in college introducing many people to many a game. And one of the games that you eagerly like to showcase, if you have it, is the Stanley Parable, especially to people who are completely blind, haven't played the game. I had lots of fun sharing that with my friends, getting all the best endings and whatnot. Because I had it on my laptop, so I could go anywhere with it. Looking forward to... I was reminded of it with the release of... or the announcement of Ultra Deluxe.
Right.
So I played it again, just like a little bit. Like there's a lot of things that I forgot, like the Secret Disco, and just a great game that I really look forward to what the guys are gonna do with it in the upcoming expansion. And yeah, Stanley Parable. It's a winner of a game. I wish I had stats on it, but I probably introduced it to like a dozen people.
Wow, you were quite the evangelist.
A prolific, yes, another way in which I am just the most benevolent person on the planet.
The Stanley Parable is one of those games where the less you know going in, the better the experience you're going to get.
Right.
And if you're showing just the average layman who has never heard of it, and you just throw them into the deep end, they probably had a very memorable time.
Shout out to the Yellow Line and the Fern. They'll know what I'm talking about. What's your number 9, Chris?
Okay, moving up to number 9. A game that got a whole lot of buzz last year, 2017. I have my number 9 as Super Mario Odyssey.
Hey!
One of the 2 premier titles that came out on the Switch last year, the other being Breath of the Wild.
Oh, what about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Yeah, that's probably number 3, I would say.
Okay.
Just because it's a port of an older game. Super Mario Odyssey, what can I say?
The premier, it took up the mantle of Mario 64.
Right. We hadn't received a 3D Mario game in quite some time. I guess you could say, was Super Mario Galaxy 2 the most recent one before this one?
Well, I go by Video Game Donkey's breakdown of the series. You have like the good games, which are like the older ones. Then you have the really good games, which are Galaxy and Super Mario Worlds 3. And then you have the masterpieces, which are 64 Sunshine and this one,
Odyssey. Okay.
That's how, I trust Donkey more than my future son.
Fair enough. Super Mario Odyssey, I'm not a big platforming guy. That's a genre that just doesn't resonate with me very much.
Then I have the Broforce for you.
So the fact that it made it all the way up to number 9 is a testament to how great it is. A lot of people put their favorite world as probably New Donk City, the New York City lookalike with realistically proportioned humans in it.
I like the food world.
The Luncheon Kingdom. That's actually my favorite as well.
Yeah, spot on. Also, you can be a tree.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Is that the Forest Kingdom,
possession?
I think?
Yeah, really early in the game, though.
And the possession mechanic it's so much fun because it provides an excuse to play around with a bunch of really creative mechanics that maybe aren't fleshed out enough to take up the entirety of a game. But since you're just playing around with them in each of these more bite-sized hub worlds, they don't overstay their welcome, and they let Nintendo play around with a plethora of really fun ideas for platforming and traversing environments. The amount of joy per minute I experienced in Super Mario Odyssey was probably at the top of the games I've played this year. Heartily recommend Super Mario Odyssey. And I didn't even play...
Did you beat it?
I did beat it. A lot of people say the game really begins once you beat it and you unlock all the end game content, because that is apparently very substantial, and that's where a lot of the real
Luigi balloons,
the real challenging platforming stages are. And I haven't touched any of the end game content. I just did the main storyline.
Are you going to do a run with no coins or no A presses?
I'm not a masochist, so probably not.
If anyone has not, I don't care if you're a video game expert or just a regular dude or girl dude. If you haven't seen the beating Mario 64's such and such a level with 1/2 A press, it is a video treatise on beating this level through manipulative means. he takes like a collegiate level explanation on how you can beat a game with only half of a button press, not even a full press.
Is he playing the game in a traditional way, or is he kind of like glitching through environments?
Oh, he's doing like parallel world, several thousands of pixel, like Cartesian math in this Mario game.
Okay, so when you said collegiate level, you were being very serious.
It's astounding the level that he is able to break the game. And it's in a fun way, you know, where it's like the Skyrim bucket glitch. If you take a bucket, you can get through.
You can remain hidden if you
yeah.
put a bucket over someone's head.
This is like something you could get like graded for. Everybody check it out. It's the Mario 64 half button press video. It's like 19 minutes.
Wow.
Well worth a watch. So that was your number 9, was Odyssey.
It was, yeah. What is your number 9?
My number 9 also includes Mario, and it's fitting that it's number 9 because it is Mario Party 9.
Okay.
I played that in March of this year.
Pretty early.
I got it for a friend's birthday present.
Which platform is that on?
That's
like
the Wii U.
Okay, Wii U.
And it's the departure that it takes from other Mario Party games is you're all in the same cart. Although that was like a cool new thing, I think I prefer it, everyone for themselves. What makes Mario Party on this list, even though it's pretty high on there, is the mini games. We found a bunch of just winners of mini games in this one. I really appreciated how, if you're looking for a game, let's say you're playing with babies and they don't have the tactile ability that is required of most games.
The fine motor skills.
Yeah.
Sure.
Although there are many babies who could beat me in Smash Online, some might have some trouble with their Fortnites or their whatever. So Mario Party 9 just bridges that gap, so I can play with as many babies as I want. That sounds dangerous. Yeah, it had a bunch of really good games. The one where you're charging a rocket ship by button mashing and shaking. That one might be a little tricky for infants, but Mario Party 9 sold it to me on the great catalog of mini games, and I really look forward. You know how Mario Party 11 came out this year?
Or Super Mario Party? Yeah. Is that the 11th entry?
Yeah.
Got it.
Super Mario Party had cool new additions like the different dice blocks and Joy-Con controls. Mm-hmm. But otherwise was kind of lackluster. It only had like 4 boards.
Right.
I'm hoping Mario Party 12, or Super Mario Party 2, is just a gangbuster of a game that has all the best stuff like the games in Mario Party 9 and all of the best boards like from Mario Party 8, although I didn't play Mario Party 8 this year. Yeah, Mario Party 9. What a winner.
You like it for its strong selection of minigames and its accessibility towards all players?
Yeah, like it was really easy to find games that I could compete against a child with.
And be on a relatively even playing field, kind of? Got it. Very good. So fun for everyone.
Yes.
As a Mario Party game should be. Okay, shall I move on to my number 8?
Yes.
Continuing with the Nintendo-centric theme we've established.
They are just sweeping.
Although this game was not developed by Nintendo, I have Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
What?
Yeah, here's a wild card for you.
What?
Created by Ubisoft.
Yeah.
In partnership with Nintendo. It's a Switch exclusive crossover between the Rabbids franchise and the Mushroom Kingdom. And,
you know, the lovable Rabbids?
Yeah, the precursors to the Minions, you could call them.
This is big surprise for me.
Yeah, and it's a big surprise for me too, because who would have thought the crossover between these two franchises would settle on mechanics that are reminiscent of XCOM. It's a turn-based strategy game from an isometric perspective, played out on a grid with percents to hit, different types of elemental weapons, different special abilities, turn-based. It's XCOM, more or less, but with a much more happy-go-lucky theme.
Yeah.
And it's not what you would expect, maybe. You might be thinking this is like a diet XCOM or my introductory to the turn-based strategy genre.
My first XCOM.
But this is definitely a game that is not devoid of difficulty. It gets fairly challenging. There are definitely scenarios I had to repeat a few times. And
I love how the juxtaposition of like, oh no, my like most decorated colonel that's been with me from mission 1 in XCOM just got headshotted by this alien covenant. And then it's like, oh no, Luigi got hit by a banana.
It's fun to see these iconic Mario characters put into different soldier archetypes.
I gotta sacrifice Peach so she can take out the rabid Kong.
So Luigi fulfills the role of a sniper if you put him in your party.
That's fucking sick.
He's wielding like the vacuum cleaner from Luigi's mansion, and that doubles as a sniper rifle. And then Peach is like your party's healer.
Medic, yeah.
Healer. Whenever she jumps and lands in the vicinity of your party members, it heals them.
Is Waluigi like behind enemy lines?
Waluigi is not a playable character, much like Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Egregious.
Rabid Luigi, he applies a whole bunch of debuffs to the enemy soldiers. So, fun different archetypes there. What makes the game stand out from, say, XCOM, I would say, is how dynamic the traversal in this game is. So, one cool thing it brings to the table is that your party members, if they run up next to each other, they can do like a synergistic launching someone else up. They like jump on their shoulders and get propelled upwards. So you can rapidly ascend to like higher terrain if you have someone to give you a jump up there. And you can really move around the environment very quickly that way, which enables you to set yourself up for like flanking shots and escapes if need be. Big surprise, when this was announced, this was a game that like leaked ahead of its official announcement, and we heard we were getting this Rabbids and Mario game. And I was just I was overflowing with skepticism and, wow, this is going to be a train wreck. But instead we got a very extremely polished, rewarding strategy game. And let me tip my hat to Ubisoft, because the level of like polish and perfection you expect from like a first-party Nintendo-developed game is very much present here. And like none of the models look janky or anything like they were developed from someone other than Nintendo. It all looks very authentic. If you had told me Nintendo made this game, I would have believed you 100%.
Right, because like other Rabid games, I don't know, like some of these uncanny looking eyeball things, you really need to respect Nintendo's level of polish. I can't think of like any Nintendo character that just outright looks weird. Even like the beach things. The Mario, queue up every Mario beach related enemy.
The cheeps, the fish?
Not the fish, but just like some of their island characters. Even though they look kind of funky, still like polished is the word.
Right. So, super pleasantly surprised by Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Pretty meaty campaign. I think it took me in the realm of like 25 hours or so.
Tell me it has a cinematic ending like that of XCOM, where like the alien leader is telepathically telling you that your resistance is the reason that humanity needs to die, and it's like the Rabbid, big brain Rabbid is telling you like fight me in a belching contest.
Well, there's definitely a story component. It's pretty lighthearted. And one more piece of praise I'll give the game before moving on. It does boss battles really well. There's like maybe around 8 bosses in the game, and each one is very creative. It's not just like
get in position.
It's not just get in position and chip away at your health until you're dead. No, they force you to have to constantly shift around the battlefield. It'll throw different kind of modifiers that make a big difference which order you take out different guys. And the bosses they have pretty cool models. The first one is like Rabbit Donkey Kong, and he's a giant rabbit.
Yeah, he's a spirit.
He is present in Smash Bros. Ultimate as a spirit. He has this constant health regeneration until you take out his supply of bananas. And then once he's deprived of his nourishment, then you can take him out. Lots of fun with the boss battles. Some get pretty challenging towards the end.
Very cool. I'm so glad you enjoyed Mario Rabbids
Kingdom Battle.
Yeah. What a shock of a pick.
Which brings us to your number 8.
My number 8 is Civ 6. I got it in May. Spoiler, I played a lot of Civilization 5 with friends in college at the end of my senior year. And they got me Civilization 6 as like a graduation present. Civ 6 had a lot more gameplay than I was expecting. I've kind of played so much Civ 5 that I know what to do. And it was a challenge for me to learn new things for Civ 6. But what they've done with the great people generation, sometimes in Civ 5 I will build a great library and then I think of like, oh, that's just a clock until my great scientist pops like at turn like 150. In Civ 6, you can earn like specific great people and accumulate points toward them by fulfilling specific actions, and they each have their own benefits. And workers are another thing. You build a worker on turn 20 and it lasts until 420. Which is, it makes your life a lot easier in Civ 5. In Civ 6, your workers only have 3 uses, so you have to be a lot more strategic. Civ 6 is, in a lot of ways, taking away what you took for granted in Civ 5 and saying, like, we're taking the training wheels off, but giving you a lot more opportunity to specify and distinguish what you want for building your engine. So I played a lot of that. I played some multiplayer with friends, and a lot of fun with Civilization 6. Looking forward to the next Civ game. It's kind of due, because Civ 6 came out in like 2015.
I think end of 16.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Gonna be curious to see what they do for like the future techs, because we're rapidly approaching. One of my biggest gripes with Civilization 5 is like the aircraft. It takes so long to like the combat between aircraft is like stilted. So I'm hoping that for Civ 7, which just sounds amazing,
rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I hope that the future techs are really cool. I want the art style to be more how it was in Civ 5. Just crank, now that I have a sexy PC, just crank the graphics. I don't make it so unrealistically overclocked, because I can take it.
Do they usually do kind of a spin-off Civilization game in between numbered entries?
I thought they did.
Was there one like Beyond Earth?
That was between 5 and 6.
5 and 6. Do you think we'll get a spin-off before 7, or hit us with a mainline entry?
Well, I hope not, because the spin-offs are rarely good. Unless they come out with, go back to like Sid Meier's Pirates, because I saw a Let's Play of that. It looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me Civ 7 though.
Okay. Speaking of the number 7, the number 7 game on my list.
Okay, I thought it was like, what games came out with 7? Like Killer is 7?
That was ported to the PC this year, I think.
Okay.
But that's an old game.
Yeah.
Here's a rule I'll suggest we take.
New rule.
If one of us names a game that is listed higher on the other person's list, let's talk about it when we get to the person who has it higher.
Okay.
So I suspect this game might be on your list. My number 7, rounding off the triple threat of Nintendo games on my list, is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Is my number 3.
Okay, we can discuss it in greater detail when we reach it on your list.
Sure.
Which would mean we're now due for your number 7.
Which is Little Alchemy 2. Now, hold on, Chris. Hold on. Stay back.
I don't know anything about this game.
Okay, so I found this game. It was going to be like a stream idea to play Little Alchemy with chat, and I found that the sequel had come out. Now, it is a game for filthy casuals. Not like an Angry Birds, but kind of like maybe like a Stardew Valley. What you do is you're given just like 4 elements, like Earth, Wind, Fire, and September. And what you have to do is combine them to create new elements. So if you do like water and air, you get mist. And then if you do earth and fire, you get lava. And you have to just keep building and building until you're making like supernovas and typewriters.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're figuring these out through experimentation, right? You're not like following a recipe, are you?
It's literally bashing rocks together.
Okay.
Instead of rocks, it's like if you do life and ocean, you get plankton. And then if you do animal and barn, you get horse. So, you know, as you laugh, but it's a lot of fun. You can just sit back and try to figure things out. And there's 700 individual objects that you can make. I stopped at 100 because I was just like, oh man, this is too much, you know, but I saved my progress. There's so many quality of life things that the sequel introduced. Little Alchemy, you just put things together, and there's hints you can take advantage of. Little Alchemy 2, it'll notify you when you've created like a final item. So let's say you put like water and lava together. That makes steam and obsidian. And obsidian is a final item, which means that you can't put obsidian with anything and get anything. Obsidian is like the end of the flow chart. So that one just gets tucked away. So you're like, oh, okay, you know, hey, I made obsidian, good for me, and I can move on, which is really good for when you're playing it on stream and people are yelling at you to do like, oh, house and dirt, you know. It's a really good game if people, especially with children, are looking for like a casual. All the kids are playing Switch Ultimate right now. Did I just call it
Switch Ultimate? We know what you mean. Smash Ultimate.
If you want to get them off that for like a little cooperative thing, I was going to race my brother. Try Little Alchemy 2. It's a nice break from other... it's a casual game that goes hard.
You could call it maybe a palate cleanser.
Sure.
It sounds like it lends itself well to being a streaming game since you can get some like audience interaction pretty easily.
Although you need to invent your own goals for yourself and be like, all right, I want to make steel because I don't know how to make steel, but it's a palate cleanser. Yes, that's Little Alchemy 2 at number 7.
Very good. Then we will move on to my number 6, which is the Banner Saga 2.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
But the third one came out.
So the Banner Saga 3 came out this year, and I was busy catching up on the second entry in the series. Here's something that struck me right away about the Banner Saga 2. You're familiar with the Mass Effect trilogy, right?
I was watching Mass Effect 1 last night.
Oh my gosh.
I was watching, what's his name, like Gargus? And they were talking to this guy in the club who was like a drunk or something, and there was like a pink guy.
A bunch of space aliens on the Citadel.
Right. Also, something is my favorite on the Citadel. This
store is I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
Yeah. Why is it so funny?
He just pimps himself out to get discounts at different stores.
Sure. And that's how you get cheaper items. Okay.
Yeah, because you advertise for them.
That's hilarious.
It's a very good time. So the Mass Effect trilogy, it's a space opera that one of its key features, how it like advertise itself, is that you get to import your saves and your choices from the previous games will carry over to the next game and the next game, and you'll get a very customized experience.
Right. Oh yeah, you said Banner Saga. Okay.
So the Banner Saga, this is another game where you import saves, but it takes it to the extreme. When I loaded up the Banner Saga 2, I brought in my Banner Saga 1 save back when I played it in summer of 2015, and it was like the same screen I left off on in Banner Saga 1. I had the same amount of supplies as my caravan had in Banner Saga 1. Like, if you limped over the finish line in Banner Saga 1, I have some bad news for you. You're in just as rough shape when you start the sequel.
Good luck with, like, the level 1 mobs and you're unable to... What's the gameplay like in Banner Saga?
It is turn-based strategy RPG.
Right.
From an isometric perspective, you have a grid And that occupies about half of the gameplay. The other half is just watching your caravan traverse a ruined landscape as you make life or death decisions that will affect the well-being of your party members.
It's isometric, but it's like from the side.
Yeah, when you get into a battle, it's more traditional isometric. When you're traversing the landscape, it's more from the side. So you pick up exactly where you left off. Like, everyone in my party had the exact same items equipped as in my first game. They had the same experience level. Now that the entire trilogy is out, if you just bought all the 3 games and played them, it would pretty much be just like one really long game.
Cool.
Because the mechanics are very much the same. The UI is the same. It is just a continuation of the Banner Saga 1, which I love. It does bring a few new things to the table. It has a new race of people in this game. They're kind of like half horse, half people. Some of them will join your party, and you can
They have better movement.
Send them into battle. They lend themselves very well to like hit and run tactics because they're so mobile. So that adds a whole new dimension to gameplay. The story beats of where the Banner Saga 2 goes, I enjoyed even more than the Banner Saga 1. The Banner Saga 1, it's setting up this story. The Banner Saga 2, therefore, you've already been introduced to these characters. They can just hit the ground running. Also, the Banner Saga, it flips you between 2 different parties throughout the game, alternating their stories. In the first one, I found one of the parties you would spend about half the game with to be a little less exciting than the other one. But in the Banner Saga 2, I was fully invested in both of the 2 narratives it's telling at the same time in parallel. Very different. One is grander in scale. It's a bunch of like families that have banded together to try to survive the apocalypse in this world where the gods are dead and the end of the world seems like it's just an inevitability.
Ragnarok.
Yeah. And the other half of the story is more of a mercenary group trying to complete a task they've been assigned. It's just really good. I can't wait to play the 3rd entry in the franchise. And one thing that sets the Banner Saga apart from maybe other turn-based strategy RPGs is its really cool hand-drawn art style.
I've seen it, yeah.
When I booted up the first time, when I played the first game, it took some warming up to. I didn't like it at first, but I think it's kind of like reminiscent of 80s fantasy drawings, and it's very distinct. I now have grown to appreciate it for how unique it is.
I want to say novella, but like that's just like a pretty word that looks like it matches the art style. I don't think there's actually any books that do it like that. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've been thinking of playing it. I saw the first part of Banner Saga 1, but I know nothing about it.
It's a good time. Big, massive cliffhanger at the end of Banner Saga 2. I'm so eagerly anticipating playing the 3rd one.
Cool. Good pick for...
Number 6.
Number 6. Okay, so my number 6 is a game that I've already mentioned. Broforce. As much as it was the most difficult game I've played, I kept going back to it just because it was so endearing. All the bosses have the announcer calling them like, Terror Copter. They all have cool names. And there's a power-up that allows you to flex. And if you flex next to an enemy, they'll run in fear. And there's girls in this game, too.
Yeah. Tell me about those.
You got Ripley from Alien and Kill Bill lady.
Okay, yeah.
The bride.
Are they using, like, the actually licensed names, or are these knockoff versions?
No, it's Ellen Ripbro and the Broad.
Got it.
You don't get to choose the character you get. It's on rotation. But when you get a girl and you press the flex button, she's like, ooh, yeah. You know, that's just kind of funny. There's a lot of good moments in this game. You get to pee on Satan's grave. And, like, the commander in the overworld screen, they're so aware of this farcical military America. All of his dialogue lines are like, Operation, God save liberating. Yeah.
How many times do you hear the words Alpha and Bravo?
Well, you'd think that each mission has like a terror threat, and you think they'd use that kind of lingo, but they goof on you and they use colors and this has threat level yellow and then threat level red, and then quickly you will progress to tangerine, salmon, terracotta.
That's really cool.
Well, it's just goofy, and it'd be like purple when you get really threatening. The last level is threat level infinite. Although I died more times than I can think of, it was such a great game, and I was always excited when I got a new bro, because I was like, maybe this guy's just busted, and I can progress way faster. But it's really hard because it's one-hit kill, and it worked its way up to number 6.
Very impressive. I'm glad it was
well done, Devolver.
A pleasant surprise for you. So now it looks like we're cracking the top 5.
Cream of the crop.
Yeah, picking my top 5 was very easy this year. 5 games really stood out to me. These are ones I feel strongly about. And kicking off my number 5 is a game I know you have a certain level of distaste for. My number 5 is Horizon Zero Dawn.
I was ready for Crash Team Racing, but it's not out yet. Horizon Zero Dawn.
This is a game that came out early in the year 2017.
I just think the name is so bleh.
It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive where you take on the role of Aloy, a post-apocalyptic setting, but unlike
Cybernetic Caveman.
This is a game set in the distant future where humanity has kind of regressed to living back in tribes, kind of like in
prehistoric
times, and walking around the landscape are giant robotic dinosaurs.
It's what your mom thinks of when she thinks video game, maybe.
It's a pretty ridiculous concept, like cavemen and robot dinosaurs. But if you look past that kind of fantastical setting, it provides a very intriguing science fiction story here. We've got a massive open world, bigger than I expected it to be, and unlike maybe if you look at an Elder Scrolls game where the gameplay is serviceable, but it's not like the star of the show. Swinging your sword is kind of floaty. The archery in this game, where you primarily engage in combat with a bow and arrow, it feels fantastic. Super smooth. You've got a host of different bows to equip, all suited to a certain type of play style. You've got your one that fires very slowly, but does a ton of damage and has a massive range and accuracy, which you should probably you should start an encounter with one of those to get in some big DPS right at the start. Then you've got your speedier bows that once you're dodging and maneuvering around the dinosaurs, you're going to probably need faster firing rates. You're juggling that with elemental types. You've got some weirder contraptions, like you can set up tripwires. You can chain larger dinosaurs down to the ground with grapples and stuff. You've got bombs. And so the gameplay is a highlight for sure. But what elevated this game to my top 5?
Don't say the story.
I'm going to say the story.
Oh, God.
So, kind of like how I mentioned in Banner Saga, there's kind of 2 stories happening in parallel, at least in the main quest line. One is dealing with kind of the politics of the time and how the different tribes are kind of in an uneasy phase where a great war has ended and they're trying to reestablish relationships, and there's some subterfuge going on. So that's a pretty good time. But the second story happening in parallel to that, I found so much more engaging. This is where the more science fiction-y elements come in, and this is exploring how society got to this state in the first place. This is set in the future, so how did present-day lifestyle evolve into
how did we get
this
here?
Post-apocalypse? And the explanation they provide and the mystery you uncover, and it's a really tantalizing mystery. They sprinkle breadcrumbs the whole way through and give you a satisfying payoff right at the very end. For as fantastical as this sounds, the explanation they give is kind of feasible, and that's a scary thought. The characters aren't super standout. There's some good ones. There are some memorable characters you will meet, but the plot here, it made me emotional, although it's not a tearjerker in the traditional sense. When you unravel the mystery and grapple with the implications of what happened, I kind of choked up a little bit. It's a really well-told science fiction story that provoked a lot of thought for me. And that's why I gave my number 5 position to Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, you're right. That game is just good stealth.
And really gorgeous to look at, too.
It's kind of lens flary. When I think of gorgeous to look at, I think Cyberpunk looks really good.
Okay. I've been more impressed with Cyberpunk's scale than its resolution and artistic design.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We'll cross that bridge when we never get it, because it's
when we're on episode 300, we'll be discussing our...
Right.
What is your number 5, Heath?
My number 5 is Red Dead Redemption 2. Is it on your list somewhere?
I have not sat down to play Red Dead Redemption 2 for a single second, so it does not appear on my list.
I mean, it's number 5. It's like in the middle. It's a lot of fun, from what I've played. Talk about the archery, so much better than Horizon.
There's archery in
Zero
Red
Dark
Dead?
30. Yeah, you hunt friggin' deer and stuff.
Bow and
I mean,
arrow.
if you try to snipe a bear, you're gonna get mauled. Yeah, the whole economy in Red Dead is it's based on you. There's a part where you gun down a animal and you skin him and put it on the back of your horse, and then there's a woman bystander on the road, and she's like, "Help me! My horse died, and I have no way of getting into town." And you got to choose between her or the pelt that you just got that you can sell it in the store.
What choice did you make?
Keep on riding. So lots of fun. We've talked about the complaints in previous episodes, but much like how the faults of Red Dead 2 are visible in like Grand Theft Auto 5, I still enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5. So I'm enjoying Red Dead 2. More to come. More information. Probably when you dive in really deep and I dive into.
How much has the story been grabbing you, if at all?
I still haven't seen Colm Wilkinson, so I like the chef character. I interact with him a lot just because I like the hunting parts and just big number go up when it comes to the camp.
Mm-hmm. Are you very generous by donating money to the camp?
I was until I heard that it really doesn't do much, which is disappointing, but I like getting into it that way. So that was number 5. Red Dead. Can't complain.
Okay. Moving on to my number 4 then. Here is a long-running franchise that this year I first had my chance to dip my toe into the water. And I was
Lego Star Wars.
very glad that I did. My number 4 is
a water pun. Subnautica.
Yakuza 0.
Yay!
You're familiar with Yakuza then?
You played a Yakuza?
Yeah, this was my first Yakuza. So Yakuza has been having kind of a resurgence these past couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
2017, we got this prequel to the entire franchise called Yakuza 0, and they remastered the first game with Yakuza Kiwami. And then this year, we got Yakuza Kiwami 2, a kind of remake of the second game, and the furthest game forward in the timeline, Yakuza 6.
Okay.
So there's tons of games coming out. Lots of people recommend 0 as the jumping in spot because it's a prequel. And holy cow, this game does some things that I've never seen a game do. It establishes a tone that I haven't seen.
You're a big, tough Japanese man, but you also have to do karaoke?
Yes. So from the outside looking in, this looked like a game about big, brawny Japanese men ripping their shirts off and then beating each other up.
In the streets, because gang turf and restore the honor of the clan.
Before I played the game, I thought it was a Japanese knockoff of Grand Theft Auto.
A Sleeping Dogs, but with a local feel.
Right. So lo and behold, the game is nothing like that. It marries two tones that you would think would completely clash with one another, but they marry the utterly ridiculous with the completely stone cold serious melodrama, and it blends them like chocolate and peanut butter. Let me explain. In Yakuza 0, there is a lengthy main campaign which deals with topics from everything from assassinations, human trafficking, sexual assault, murder, hostile real estate takeovers. This is some very, very heavy stuff.
It's about, you're a crime guy.
Yes, you're a member of the Yakuza, who's the Japanese mafia, more or less. But in a game where all of that horrible, horrible things happen, it's also a game where you have a punk rock group come up and approach you. And it turns out they're a bunch of choir boys who have this persona of a punk rock group, and they don't know how to act tough, so they ask you for advice. And then they have to put on a show using your advice, and how well the crowd perceives them is up to what advice you gave them.
Oh, man.
And it's a game where this concerned mother hasn't seen her daughter in weeks and asks you to infiltrate a cult on her behalf to go get her daughter back. And it's a game where this girl will run up to you on the street and ask you to go to impersonate her boyfriend so that when she meets her dad won't think she's a loner.
I know that one. Yeah.
It's a game where a TV crew will come up to you because their producer hasn't shown up yet, and they need you to be their producer on a TV show episode that's airing. And they're constantly like quizzing you on like TV and film lingo that like a layperson wouldn't know.
Cool.
So you're just multiple choice guessing at what they want you to actually do.
Yeah, put the gaffer on the rotoscope.
Exactly, just like that. You would think that in a game where the utterly absurd, wacky, and irreverent stuff would make all the melodrama like
oil and water.
You wouldn't be able to take the serious stuff serious. Or after spending time with this very serious plot line, you're going to be depressed and you won't be in the mood for anything crazy and fun.
After the mini game in the fish market, are you going to be sad when somebody kills your brother?
Right. There's bursting with mini games. There's so much side content here that I didn't even touch. The characters in this game, some of the best I've seen in any game. Another game that has alternating storylines that eventually converge. You have two protagonists in this game. Your main boy, Kazuma Kiryu, and my personal favorite, Goro Majima.
Majima, does he have an eye patch?
Okay.
Yes. And like a yellowish jacket?
He sports the yellowish jacket in following games. This game, he's very much in like a suit attire.
Majima, you love to hate?
Majima, I love to love.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning of Chapter 3 in this game, you get introduced to Goro Majima with a 17-minute long cutscene. It is what may be the best character introduction I have seen in any piece of media ever.
What?
Goro Majima is the manager of the Cabaret Grand. A cabaret is kind of like a nightclub that has like live performances in it.
Yes.
And even if you have zero interest in ever playing a Yakuza game, please do yourself the service of looking up this cutscene.
All right.
Type in Goro Majima introduction Yakuza 0. 17 minutes of your life that will be well spent. You get introduced to his suave grace and unflinching hospitality while he deals with a very violent guest at the cabaret, and he just handles it with the eloquence and elegance befitting like a god among men.
I don't understand.
Goro Majima is love. Goro Majima is life.
Oh, good.
And the main storyline, full of twists and turns. It'll keep you at the edge of your seat for its entire duration. It is a lengthy game. I probably spent 40 to 50 hours in it, and I probably touched about like half the side content. You could easily spend 100 hours playing Yakuza 0 and not feel like you're treading old water.
When was it released?
This came out in January 2017.
Oh, okay, new.
It came out a little earlier in Japan, but this was the North American release.
Right.
Also, a game without a single line of English voice acting. It's all subtitles.
Yeah, that's,
Which I grew to like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It made it feel more authentic since it's a very Japanese setting.
Yeah.
So, Yakuza 0 blew me away. I am looking forward to diving into the 6 other mainline Yakuza games over the course of my life, because that's probably how long it's going to take me to finish them.
I have a backlog of podcast episodes of the Super Best Friend cast that I need to now listen to and catch all of the Yakuza stuff that Pat said. Look forward to that. That was, what number was that?
That was my number 4.
Okay. My number 4, it's Quiplash,
Yeah.
I played Quiplash yesterday. The other game that was the heaviest hitter in college, introducing people to the kinds of games I like. Quiplash was prolific in its influence. Lots of people have phones.
They do, although maybe not at BlizzCon conventions.
Is this an April Fool's joke? I should specify that I'm referring to Quiplash 2, although I prefer Quiplash XL, because Quiplash 2 has the last round is like a gimmick question. It's like, come up with a band name with this funny word in the title. It has a lot more criteria. It's more restrictive. I prefer the basic, vanilla Quiplash questions for all 3 rounds. It's so much fun. Like, whatever group you get, it's going to be a good time. Although it came out like way long ago, it still comes to mind because the Jackbox Party Pack 5 came out recently. That one has 5 other games. Quiplash and Fibbage have been their most called upon returns for the party packs. I'm hoping Party Pack 6, because 5 didn't have it, I'm hoping Party Pack 6 has like Quiplash 3000 and is just built to last, because I've gone through so many games of Quiplash, I'm starting to see the questions repeat. And even though Quiplash 2 allows you to make your own questions, I hope that give this game some love, because it could be so popular and just have a constant update cycle of new questions, or hire me to write them. So number 4 goes to Quiplash, the game that refuses to die.
I've never made it through a game of Quiplash and not burst out laughing.
Oh, I have. Sometimes it gets really dumb.
It's a great party game.
I'm glad you have had positive experiences all around. Okay, let me guess what your number 3 is. It's just like a wild pick. Let me do Far Cry 2.
It was not Far Cry 2.
I don't even think Far Cry 2 is a real game.
A lot of people, that's probably their favorite Far Cry.
Are you serious?
It's like the most...
No, 3 is everyone's favorite.
3 is like what started the new direction of the franchise. 2 is like, oh man, this is really hardcore because every 5 seconds my gun jams and I'm dying of malaria.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's like Oregon
a hardcore
Trail.
Survival game.
Holy cow, I didn't even know.
Continuing my trend of niche Japanese games, we have...
What is this?
Danganronpa.
Oh my god.
So, over the course of 2018, I played the Danganronpa trilogy in its entirety.
Let me look this
I'm
up.
talking Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, and Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. This is a series of...
It's the bear.
It's a series of visual novel games / Ace Attorney style logic trials.
I like that.
So, I'm not going to be a cheater here and put 3 games as my number 3. If I had to pick one, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony is my favorite of the 3, the final one. Premise is, you take a group of high school students. These aren't any high school students, though. Every one of them
Has a stand.
Is a world prodigy in some subject matter.
Cool.
So you will have the ultimate baseball player and the ultimate computer programmer and the ultimate gambler. You'll have this eccentric cast where each one has this very specialized skill. This group of characters are thrown together, locked in a school, at least for the first game. The other games explore different settings. They cannot escape, and a robotic bear called Monokuma says the only way to leave the school is to commit a murder and then get away with it.
What a mystery.
Obviously, tension ramps up, and eventually the murders start happening.
Oh, it's like Battle Royale.
It is kind of like the old use of the word Battle Royale.
Yeah.
This game series excels in 2 areas for me. Area 1, the cast of characters are very endearing. There's such a wide spectrum of personalities to either fall in love with or love to hate here. And there's something that will appeal to everyone. There's some great character development. These people get fleshed out, assuming they don't die right off the bat.
It differs.
Well, like, a character who dies in the first murder won't get as much development as someone who survives till the end.
Right, but I'm saying, like, there's replayability in which, like, is who dies under your control?
Not under your control. So replayability, a bit lacking here. You will know how the game plays out once you have played it once.
Okay.
The second strength about the Danganronpa series that I love so much is how consistently it subverts your expectations. Here's where I knew I was getting into something special. I was at the second class trial. Once a murder occurs, you have a brief period where you get to gather
yeah.
You get to gather evidence, and once that period is over, everyone is put into a courtroom and trial begins, where one of you present is the murderer. So someone is actively trying to mislead the group. And the mechanic they use here, they call it a bullet time. It combines... Have you ever wanted to combine a logic-based argument with a first-person shooting game?
Oh my
because
God.
This is how Danganronpa represents its arguments.
Is there bullet hell of, like, misinformation?
It's like a metaphor. So the evidence you've collected, each one is a bullet.
In the chamber of truth.
You load your different evidence bullets into a revolver. An argument will repeat on loop, where characters will make a claim, and certain words will be highlighted.
And you target the words.
The highlighted words, you have to find the highlighted word that you can contradict with one of your pieces of evidence. Whether it's someone who is incorrect or actively lying, it'll depend. And then you rotate the chamber in your gun, pick the right piece of evidence that will contradict the certain claim, fire, and if you're correct, it'll shatter the word. Your character will scream objection.
Maximum logic.
And the story will progress. And when I got to the very second case of the series in the first game, I went into the trial with my mound of evidence, and I had a pretty clear picture of how I thought the trial was going to play out. And then it was revealed to me that a Danganronpa trial is very much like an onion. There are so many layers. There are so many crazy twisting layers to the trial that I was about 3 layers deep, and I had my complete perspective of what had happened in the trial had altered 180 degrees 3 different times. The way these trials are written, they don't feel cheap, like, oh man, that was crazy.
I couldn't have done it. I was at the beach.
No, it's all the evidence is there from the beginning. And yeah, to a certain extent, they lead you to thinking it happens this way, but that's very much...
It couldn't have been the butler.
That's only the surface level perspective. You have to dig deep when you go into a Danganronpa trial. And I think my favorite trial happens in 2, but the average quality of Danganronpa trials in 3 is just so high that... And I said subvert expectations. These trials go places where you wouldn't possibly conceive they could go. And I'm only talking about, like, the conventional gameplay, like, writing and trials here. There is the meta-narrative layer on top of this whole thing, which is explaining how did these students get in this situation in the first place? Who is orchestrating this? Why is this happening at all?
Right.
And that provides a compelling mystery that carries you through the game. And Danganronpa 3's meta-narrative in particular is kind of like... It changes the way I look at media in general.
Are we... What do you mean?
If you enjoy the fourth wall breaks of, say, your Nier Automatas or your Metal Gear Solids, Danganronpa will be right up your alley.
Oh, okay.
So...
The memes.
A game with an excellent narrative, and it makes you feel smart for making the connections when you connect the correct piece of evidence to the correct contradiction.
Cool.
And it doesn't It's not ham-fisted. There's some subtlety in making the connection, so you usually feel pretty smart when you do.
Okay, man.
And that is why I fell in love with Danganronpa this year.
Is there English voice acting?
There is.
Yeah, all right, I'll try this. This sounds like better L.A. Noire.
If you have a strong aversion to anime and anime tropes, maybe stay clear, because there's definitely some of that in here.
Anime trope. Let me think. What? Like charging up for a whole hour?
I'll leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that. Oh.
So, Heath, what was your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is Smash.
Right. Okay.
Let's get into that.
Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Dude, World of Light felt like work at some points.
It is. It's a game I think benefits from dipping in and dipping out in relatively short bursts.
Yeah, whereas I'm trying to stay in the hot tub longer than anyone else so I could soak up all that sweet online GSP.
Yeah. Be careful not to pass out for staying in the World of Light too
Dude,
long.
I'm like dipping in and out of consciousness.
There's that like chasm down the center of the map. Have you crossed over to the other
That's what I was saying. I turned the lightning off.
Okay. That's what you meant.
Classic mode's great, though.
I haven't done any classic mode.
It's really fun.
It's like a short campaign for every fighter.
Well, it's Smash fights, but they're canonical. So you play the Pac-Man one. Pac-Man's is ageless classic. And you got to play against Game & Watch and Donkey Kong on 75M on all these retro stages, because that's the theme, is that he's like classics from 1980.
Right.
Pac-Man's from 1980. And then you play as Ken, and his is like Red Rival Fighter. You play against all of the rivals. So you play against like Waluigi, or excuse me, I wish. You play against Luigi and Ridley, and the last battle is against Ryu, full circle. So classic mode's great. The credits are very long. It's a bullet hell thing to get more rewards, right? You get snacks and you get skill spheres and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very long, and I don't know how to skip the credit.
When I reached the credits of World of Light, I was able to skip them, but maybe that's not true for classic
Did you shoot the names?
Oh, no, I did not.
Then it's a different credits.
Different credits. Got it.
Can you unlock every fighter in World of Light?
I believe so. And then, like, if you play World of Light for a decent chunk of time and you, like, back out and go to the main menu, usually a challenger will appear.
Well, yeah, I've been getting most of them that way, but me Brawler is evading me, and I don't know why.
I definitely found me Brawler in World of Light, fought him that way, and that's how I
he's in
unlocked
the
him.
red and blue things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, but I looked it up on a wiki.
A common theme I see with the Switch so far, it seems like Nintendo is taking their classic franchises and then giving the people what they want. We got like the most comprehensive version of Smash Bros. On the Switch. We got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with like all the add-ons and DLCs on the Switch. They're just giving us a wealth of content and polishing it to a pristine level. I'm very pleased with this direction Nintendo is taking.
Who do we give the credit to? Is it Reggie or who's the president that took over after what's his name?
Satoru Iwata was the one who passed away.
Yeah, dude, Iwata. I watched a video on him. He was amazing. Like, he sat down and helped program while he was the executive, such a chairman guy.
Yeah, he's an icon.
He was
industry.
super cool. I was completely deaf to his legacy and whatnot.
I actually don't know who his
Successor
is.
Me neither. Wasn't his predecessor like this really old guy that like was making games for some reason? The first probably president of Nintendo was a character in Yakuza. I don't know. It looked like it.
Well, like, Nintendo started in the 1800s, right? Making playing cards.
Did they?
I believe so.
Interesting.
So they've definitely
That's
evolved
super
with
cool.
the times.
Yeah. What are other companies that start out like? Did Apple make bubblegum? That's a cool fun fact.
Yeah.
All there's left to do regarding Smash is just speculate on the DLC characters.
Yeah. I don't know if this will happen. Fingers crossed that that good Sega relationship that brought us Sonic, is bringing us Joker. I'm hoping we get a Yakuza character out of it.
No,
I'm hoping we get
chance.
Goro Majima in Smash Bros. Ultimate.
We are moving on. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is
I gotta see who this Majima guy is.
Total War Warhammer.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I've only played one Total War game, but go on.
I'm not a super hardcore veteran of the Total War franchise. I messed around with Medieval 2 for like an hour. I got 20 hours into Shogun 2 before abandoning my campaign, and I played Rome 2 for about 50 hours. I actually did finish one campaign there. But by far and away, Total War Warhammer is my favorite one I've played yet. I'm talking about the first one, not Warhammer 2, which I am super excited to get to one day. But Total War Warhammer, a 2016 release. What sets it apart from all the other Total War games I've played thus far is, well, obviously it's a fantasy setting instead of a historical one.
Right,
and
you have mechs. There's like medieval mechs.
It's the Empire faction has like a steam-powered tank.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the closest thing to a mech. When you're in the historical settings, you've got different like nations of people, but at the end of the day, they're people, and you can only introduce so much asymmetry that way. Like if you have the Gauls and the Romans, maybe they have some different strengths and weaknesses, but you're still just an army of guys and another army of guys. They play more or less the same.
So it is historical fantasy.
Total War Warhammer is purely fantasy.
Oh, okay.
I was more referencing from like the Rome
campaign? Okay.
Total War game. In Total War Warhammer, what I love so much is that now, since you can go crazy and have a faction of dwarves and a faction of undead and a faction of like half men, half beasts, and then regular humans, all the different factions play wildly differently. The asymmetry lends so much replayability to the game because starting a campaign as the Empire, which plays more or less like a traditional Total War faction, then starting a campaign as the Vampire Counts, you're juggling entirely new mechanics. They've got a completely different army roster of units. Like, for instance, the Vampire Counts don't have any range or artillery units. It's purely a melee-focused army.
Do they bite you?
And since they're dead, you don't have any morale to worry about. These guys are fearless, so they just keep fighting. So that lends itself to completely different play styles. This could be like my desert island game, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to bring a game to play in perpetuity forever to a desert island, it would probably be Total War Warhammer, one of its sequels, just because a campaign is pretty lengthy. It's like 30 to 35 hours.
Wow.
And this year, I played 3 campaigns to completion.
Wow.
So I spent 98 hours playing this game. It is my most played game of 2018.
Does it have this like 4X top down looking at the map kind of feel?
Yeah.
And then does it zoom in on battles?
Yes. It's a cool blending of when you're looking at the grand scale campaign map, it's a turn-based game where you're managing your cities, maneuvering your armies around the board, collecting taxes, forging diplomatic alliances, expanding your borders. But then every time a conflict emerges, it loads up like a 3D model of a battlefield, and now it turns into a real-time strategy game where you order soldiers around in real time. It's no longer turn-based.
Yeah.
It's an RTS, much like StarCraft and it's fantastic.
You gotta have so much patience in that battle sequence, because so often my archer's way too close, and then the opponent's melee units just whack my archers, taking them out, and then I'll always be spamming double time because you can rush them, right?
You can tell your guys to run.
Yeah, and then like I'll speed up because there's like you can speed up the playing of
right. You can fast forward the match.
Yeah, and then I'll be like too far, and then my leader will get slain. And I played Total War Medieval 2.
Okay, yeah.
Seth is amazing at that game. He
Really?
can just beat it in 8 turns on normal as England. Although I think he doesn't play the battles. I think he just sims them. So maybe he got lucky. But a fun note, I'm derailing your Warhammer thing. I loved the little descriptions that you get referring to the skill level of your faction people. So your leader, has a certain level of piety and command and chivalry. And if you mouse over like the skill track, it'll be like, oh, praise every day, or small animals will obey his orders. Like, it's just like fun writing like that. And then there's the same thing for like spies and princesses who are units,
right,
to marry other dudes. You mouse over their attractiveness, and I wish, can someone do the work of finding out all of those little blurbs that describe your skill level? I want to know what like the hottest princess is and what the ugliest princess is. Just like, oh, not even the rain touches how icky this broad is. Like, or like the spies even. Like, oh, sit in the king's throne and no one will notice. Somebody get on it.
Yes, listeners, please get to it.
This is Medieval 2.
We are dying to know.
Total War. Okay, so Warhammer. This isn't 40K, is it?
The company that owns those licenses, Games Workshop, they have one that's in the future called 40K and one that's in the past called Warhammer Fantasy. And this is based on the one in the past.
The past one. Okay. What's your level of tech?
Each faction has its own tech tree that is in totally different shapes. So like the Empire, you have pretty immediate access to any type of technology you want in a relatively short amount of time. Mm-hmm. But like the Orcs, who aren't known for their technological prowess, they have a very like long linear path, so it takes you a long time to get to endgame stuff.
Okay.
Tech is just based on like how much time you spend researching it versus how fast your rate of research is.
Okay.
And the first game, the one I played this year, it's roughly set in metaphors for Europe and North Africa, and the sequel is set in North and South America. Cool. But I'm very excited for when I get the sequel. There's this free piece of DLC called Mortal Empires, which combines it all into one massive map.
Ooh.
And all the factions are present at the same time.
Okay.
And that seems incredible.
How do you traverse oceans?
That's a good question. I haven't played this super grand level campaign yet, so I don't know.
You probably just walk around water, right?
There must be some sort of connection. Oh wait, my bad. There are boats in the game.
Okay.
So you can take a normal army. It'll go into the sea like normal. There aren't any naval battles, but you can traverse the sea.
Naval battles are boring anyway. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Maybe I'll play this. What the heck is it called? Total War
Warhammer.
And then the next one's
Total War Warhammer 2.
Yeah.
And there is a third one in development.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Missed opportunity not calling it Total Warhammer.
Oh, yeah. What are they doing? Oh, man.
The marketing teams over at Creative Assembly and Sega need to
they gotta
hire us.
That's right. My number 2 times 2 is Fallout 4.
Got it.
So, when did Fallout 4 come out?
2015.
Oh, wow, that's so long ago. And I'm still playing it. Okay, the reason I'm still playing it is because my computer went in the shop, right? So I didn't have any electronics other than like my phone. And what am I going to do? Play like friggin' Stardew Valley? I know it's not on the phone, but... So I broke out the Xbox just for my own sake. I had Fallout 4. It was like the only game that like I wasn't gonna play like NHL. Who cares? So I just dove in, and I knew I wasn't going. I was going to. My favorite part of that game is linking the settlements. So the more outposts you convince to join your faction, the more supplies you get, and basically, me, big number go up. I just wanted to link those settlements so that I could get the big guns and just like crouch and snipe for hours on end. Even though I played it before, I was completely satisfied, linking the same settlements. It's just like cathartic. I also got reinvigorated by Dan Harmon playing the game. Do you know creator of Rick and Morty and Community, screenwriter Dan Harmon, who has his own podcast, Harmontown? On his podcast, he would talk about the romance options in Fallout 4 and how he couldn't convince himself to be like, or Preston Garvey would, after however many missions together, be like, hey, at the start of this apocalypse, it was really hard trying to find hope, but you found hope for me, and I'm glad we're here together. And then it's like, yup, nope, romance in the red text. That's like, this is a speech thing, And Dan couldn't bring himself to hit the romance option, so he just hits like an affirmative and being like, oh man, yeah, I'm great to have you too, and he's just stringing along Preston Garvey in this circle of friendship death. Same thing with like Hancock, the ghoul guy. He's like, hey, I really enjoy our time together, and then it's like romance, and Dan's just like, no, it wasn't homophobia or anything, and he makes a joke about that, but just lots of fun. And that made me think like, oh, I'll pop in Fallout 4. I still want to like go back in it on stream maybe and just prioritize sniping. Sniping is just so much fun. Because like the cha-ching that you get when you kill enemies, like bottle caps and whatnot. Yeah, there's not really, and Fallout 76 coming out, maybe want to dive back in. The only thing I don't care about Fallout 4 is the story missions where you gotta wait for Piper to talk to the mayor, and then you gotta walk on the neurons in Kellogg's mind. It's if you ever watch a speed run of Fallout 4, there's just dead zones where people are mashing through dialogue and then sprinting towards the end of the game. Love Fallout 4. I'm glad I got to play it again this year. And we're not going to get a new Fallout anytime soon, so this will have to satisfy me until Cyberpunk comes out, or the next Fallout, or Skyrim 2.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Fallout 4 is a game I haven't played outside of like the opening 60 minutes or so, and it's probably one I'm going to finally dedicate more time to in 2019.
Okay.
So maybe more Fallout 4 discussions in the future.
Sure.
Well, that brings us to our number one.
How excited are you for this number one? I don't think mine is a surprise.
And I don't think mine is a surprise.
All right, well, what is it?
For astute listeners out there, they can probably predict what mine is. My favorite game that I played in 2018 was this year's God of War.
Hooray!
I will just say that for a game that released in April of 2018, I had to put up with 7 months of listening to all my video game podcasts, praising the game up and down.
Did they really?
I had to see all the 10s it received and look at that 94 on Metacritic. And for 7 months, my expectations built and built. And then, when I finally sat down and played the game, after that colossal period of time of sky-high expectations, it still managed to meet and exceed them. So...
Wow, you didn't get Undertaled.
I did not get Undertaled. It delivered on all of my hopes, and I couldn't have been any more pleased with it.
For those who don't know, when Undertale came out, it was praised universally. And so when the big people who hadn't gotten the chance to play it because it was so new just heard everyone's recommendation, it kind of set their expectations way too high, so that when they played it, going into it, they knew it was like
supposed to be very good,
a sleeper hit, essentially. Mm-hmm. So they didn't enjoy it as much as if they went in blind. So you didn't get Undertale.
I did not.
It lived up to the hype.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see why you enjoyed God of War.
Heath, that brings us to your number one.
Yes. And I don't know if anyone was surprised by this pick. If you have like a certain... We all know those Smash people. Even if Ultimate was kind of lame, they'd probably make it number one. And those Dark Souls people, even if like Bloodborne 2 comes out and it's kind of lame, they might make it number 1 just because it scratches that itch. The game for me that if I'm a human rash that scratches me the most, it's Civilization 5. I played that incessantly in my last few months of college with friends, like late nights too, multiplayer, just riffing. You know how we played Splendor? There's a board game out there called Splendor that is a engine building game.
It demands a lot of focus. It's often the board game I play that creates the least amount of discussion while playing.
Right, but we played it recently with a lot of people who've played a lot of Splendor, and so we were just having a full-blown conversations, simming the game like it was muscle memory. That's the case with Civilization 5 for a particular friend group I have. We would just go through hundreds and hundreds of turns, basically socializing while our fingers were settling and trading luxury resources. Even though Civ 6 is on this list, it doesn't come close to how satisfying Civilization 5 can be. I recently installed some mods because I have a PC now, and the mods are way in depth and almost like obstructively so. Like I'm a little intimidated, but I'm also kind of excited to see what that adds to particular late game stuff. Like there's full-blown corporations now and monopolies that I haven't really gotten the balance. The combat's a little different. Civ 6 too slow for me. I'm certain there's a mod to like help speed things up, but for the time being, I'm way too busy with Smash Ultimate. It feels like a job, and if I'm not playing that, I'm gonna switch on some Civ 5. It's a big winner. How many hours have you played of Civ 5?
I think around 3 or 4.
I've played like 800 hours. Maybe my family is contributing to that, but it's the most prolific game I own. Came out in 2010. I will have played this game for like a decade.
What you and I need to do, when I spent those few early preliminary hours with Civ 5, I saw all the glimmering potential that exists there, and I just couldn't quite reach it. I need you to train me how to enjoy Civ 5.
Okay.
And I think I could be right there with you, sinking hundreds of hours into it.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, I'll set you up with the right. Do you know you don't recall who you played as necessarily?
It was probably America.
Oh, America's good. I'll set you up with a really nice Civ. Not something weird like the Assyrians. I will totally convert you if you want.
I would like that.
Whether or
much.
not you like it. So, big surprise. Tell us all how surprised you were by our picks. I'm still giddy over the Yakuza pick. And I'm so in the dark on those games, which is probably good considering like how the praise that you levy upon them. And then, if I were to play it on stream, you could probably have just like flipped him and been like, oh, Danganronpa, you play as Majima, and then Yakuza, there's this bear, and I've been like, oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe I did flip them.
Oh no! All right, that's it for the top 10 list.
That was a lot of fun.
Tell us all how big surprised you were. Do we get into the question?
Yeah, I have a question that's actually suited to someone with your background.
Oh, what?
And it's kind of a long-winded one.
Does this have to do with the producer quest in Yakuza?
No, it doesn't.
What's an apple box?
All right, if I had to summarize this question in one sentence before I dive into my tirade here, it would be, how pervasive are video games in 2018?
Okay.
At work, I'm on a team of some pretty prolific film and TV watchers. They're pretty...
That's where they get their entertainment.
For the most part. And the kind of running joke is they discuss a plethora of shows and movies, and sometime early in the conversation, someone will ask me, Chris, have you seen this? And the answer they're expecting is no. And to be fair, some of the shows they're talking about are a little before my time, so it's not super weird, but... To be fair, a lot of my entertainment time is spent playing video games, so maybe I haven't watched as much movies or TV as the layman.
Oh, what are you going to watch? Like The Walking Dead? Like, blech. Game of Thrones?
So, this was months ago, and I kind of had a passing thought to myself, Who is more of the outlier here? That they can list like dozens of shows that I don't have any familiarity with, or that I could probably list a few dozen games they don't have any familiarity with. And the answer I came to very quickly was, I'm probably a little bit out of the norm here. The barrier to entry with video games is a bit higher than that of movies. The skills that require you to enjoy a movie are to be able to look at a screen, either hear the dialogue that's playing, or, in the case of a foreign language film, read the subtitles. For a video game, there's a few more layers that get in between you and the entertainment. First, there's a bit more of a financial hurdle. You need a piece of hardware specifically designed to play video games that costs at least a couple $100. While to watch a movie, you probably subscribe to some sort of streaming service and you can just boot that up and start watching. In addition to the visual and audio skills required to enjoy a movie, to enjoy a game, you also need some fine motor skills. You've got a controller you need to manipulate. Being able to traverse a 3D landscape from a 2D perspective on a screen using 2 analog sticks is not a skill humans are innately born with. I distinctly remember, like, as a kid growing up, getting my first-person shooter or third-person action game and actually, like, struggling to get my character to move where I wanted him to go. And only through persistence and having, like, a big desire to actually pull it off did I eventually, with a month or two of practice, it became second nature to me. But that's not a process everyone has gone through. And last but not least, the last hurdle I could think of is that every time you watch a new movie, you don't have to learn this movie's mechanics. When you watch one movie, you know how to watch every movie ever made.
I can't wave dash in this Star Wars.
When you sit down in front of a new video game, you don't necessarily know how to play it yet. If you've grown up on a bunch of real-time strategy games playing StarCraft or Command and Conquer, and now all of a sudden you sit down in front of a first-person puzzle game like The Witness or Portal.
Where are the pylons?
None of your skills are going to transfer. You have to learn this completely new set of systems and subsystems and gameplay mechanics and conventions that are alien to you. So there's the kind of theoretical component of video games have this bigger barrier of entry to, which make them probably a more niche entertainment product than a movie. And then the anecdotal experience I have is that in just about every aspect of my life, from classmates to coworkers to family and extended family, I've encountered people who claim they just don't happen to play any video games in any extent, really. We've received feedback on our podcast. I'm very thankful that some of my coworkers tuned in. We've had our mutual friends from high school listen, and they've given us useful feedback. And some of them have also said, we don't really know what you were talking about, but your chemistry was somewhat entertaining to listen to.
Hooray!
So if we were a movie podcast, I don't know if we would be receiving the comments of, we don't really know what you were talking about, because it's movies. If I asked my parents to name a video game that released in 2018, I'm not exactly sure they'd be able to do that. Now that my mom is an adamant listener of Mobius Tubes, that might change. So the fact that I can encounter people in my daily life that have no connection to video games, but I'm not meeting anyone who goes, yeah, movies? Never seen one of those.
What's a Citizen Kane?
Yeah, right. So the fact that people who have no attachment to video games exist in my life, while people who have no attachment to movies don't exist in my life, would indicate to me that, once again, video games are the more niche entertainment product. And if that was the end of this conversation, that wouldn't have been much of a topic for discussion. But just recently, I was listening to a podcast, and I heard a statistic that made me kind of do a double take and go, that wouldn't seem like it would be the case. And what they claimed on the podcast was, this year's Game Awards, the 2018 one, attracted more viewership than the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my due diligence and looked up the statistics, and it wasn't quite that way. The Oscars actually did have more viewers, but they've kind of reached parity here. The Oscars pulled in approximately 26.5 million viewers, while this year's Game Awards pulled in 26.2 million viewers, so off by 300K. So if one entertainment medium is so much more ubiquitous and pervasive in our society, how is it that the award shows are attracting just about an equal number of viewership?
The answer to that question, I mean, I don't think they stream the Oscars. It's a lot. It's so easy for people to like watch the Game Awards on YouTube and Twitch. Oscars aren't on YouTube, except for clips.
Right. So there's less accessibility to watching
If
the
the
Oscars.
Oscars were on YouTube, that stat would not exist,
Okay.
or it'd be just like insignificant. Yeah, what you'd expect.
Right. That is a very valid point. One other thing I'll point out is the exponential growth the viewership of the Game Awards is attracting. It's existed in this iteration for a few years. Last year, 2017, the viewership was only 11.5 million people. So in 1 year, it increased 128%. If that trend continues, which it has for the past couple of years, we could see the Game Awards viewership blooming higher and higher, and maybe outpacing the Oscars in every sense of the word. But you seem to, the look on your face displays some skepticism to that notion becoming reality.
Okay, you want me to dive in, or
Yeah,
just
hit me.
Okay, so it's apt that you described the barrier for entry as like a hurdle. You said a hurdle. If I say a wave, I think we're riding a wave that's going to, not to say our team is better for your source of entertainment, but movie theaters, if I could just fabricate a stat, movie theaters are dying 1,000%.
Okay.
Kids are not going to go to the theaters in the future because you have a really nice TV screen at home. Everyone's parents ogled for like the plasma OLED 4K colors you can't even see. Everyone has like a nice TV, and everyone bought into like this streaming, whether you got like DirecTV or can just get like YouTube Red movies. What you're gonna see is people are gonna be consuming their movies at home if they aren't already. The last movie I saw in theaters was like Incredibles 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just because like it was a day one launch. The less social movie going becomes is once movie going is no longer the norm and it's just movie watching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already a concern. I mean, that's why Movie Pass was a thing, right? Has our mutual friend convinced anyone to go do a Movie Pass? I mean, the reason that existed is because movie theaters were dying, which is bad for me because I work in film and television.
I want you to. I've been
I'm pulling
hearing
it back. Hold on.
Oh, okay. You can continue.
The feather in the cap of video gaming is it's become way more social than you could have ever expected. You got Let's Plays, which are already massively successful, and you know that the next big game is going to have the next big person that convinces Obama to LP something. The barrier for entry, even games like Quiplash and, God forbid, mobile games, are making it so that people can dip their toes in rather than immediately needing to do a cannonball of $300. And it's becoming way more social. The fact that you can go on Twitch and enjoy people playing a game. You can't all watch a movie together online necessarily without running into like copyright issues.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's like a website called Picardo. It's like a streaming service for Star Trek episodes, and it has like a chat box and things like that. But the hurdle is going down because of more accessible games and less moviegoers. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the viewership of the Game Awards to continue to rise, although we're not going to hit 40 million viewers.
You don't think we could do that?
No. It's going to... What's a good benchmark for viewership of like a live event? Super Bowl viewership. Because that's the
biggest thing that happens.
That's 111 million people. And Oscars were doing 24-ish. And that's low.
This was a low year for the Oscars. It was 26. Previous years were in the 30s and even the low 40s of millions of people watching the Oscars.
Game Awards 2019 will be in the 30s.
I think so.
Not the 40s.
Yeah, I agree. But what about in 2020? This is a pretty short time frame.
I think it's going to be way more gradual than that.
Okay, so the exponential growth of the early years is not going to be a lasting trend, according to you.
Right. This gets very tribal. It's like us versus them.
Yes, it is to some extent, and I'm not trying to foster animosity.
Well, I hate your coworkers because they don't like my games.
Sorry, I don't think any of them have played Little Alchemy 2.
No, but to be fair, they're already on mobile games we've never heard of. And, they're going to parties where you might have Tetris playing, or you might have like these digital games of like catchphrase, that might be a thing. More specific examples. And then like HQ, but I said mobile games. The trend will be that this will wet their beaks. To be very sophisticated and like Machiavellian with my converting of the normies to video games. You'll see that they'll eventually and I don't know what the threshold is into like dropping $60 on this game or getting a console.
Here's a potential.
Give me more stats.
I have more stats for you here.
I love some stats.
Here's a potential wrench into something you said, but I suspect you have a more informed perspective than me, so I want to see if you can counter this wrench.
I'm going to be anecdotal.
I took this statistic from a website called boxofficemojo.com. So
reputable.
So maybe this is completely erroneous. I'm not sure. Let's take it at face value, though. They said 2018 was the highest grossing year for the box office ever, beating the previous record holder, which was 2016. If the box office is grossing more money than ever, I agree. I've heard for many years now that the movies are dying and like things like movie theaters are dying. And the box office money is from movie theaters, correct?
Yes.
And it makes sense they'd be dying, right? There's all these streaming platforms they never competed with before.
They're dying in the West.
These box office numbers are only including the United States and Canada.
Okay.
So the West. And they managed to beat every previous year's record for amount of money grossed, which would indicate movie theaters are at their peak.
Well, what's inflating your numbers there is Star Wars Iron Man.
The Han Solo movie that came out this year?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. You said that with some indignity. I mean,
the highest grossing movie this year was Black Panther, followed by Avengers: Infinity War.
Yes, so we are like, as soon as people have had their fill of these multi-year, as soon as this Star Wars trilogy wraps up and this Infinity War 22-ology wraps up and they launch the second wave. I say second, but it's probably like the fifth. Once they launch that and people are, riding the hype of the recently concluded franchise crossovers and whatnot, they'll enjoy the first installment of those. But then I am anticipating this superhero franchise reborn reboots, this wave will die out in the theaters. And you will carry on. You'll watch Ant-Man 4 on your couch. Maybe we're taking things at face value, but maybe the box office also includes day one streams.
I
demand.
Kind of, it's a possibility. I kind of doubt it, though.
Well, I'm an expert, so
you're saying that we are enjoying some very lucrative years in the movies industry right now, but the fundamentals are changing in such a way that it cannot last.
Well, your counterpoint to me saying, "Oh, movie theaters are dying," and you're like, "But movie theaters," and I'm also like, "But movies in the movie theaters." But then when movies in the movie theaters are like Calendar Man, people are gonna be like, "Oh, I'll buy it I'll rent it for $4 on my laptop rather than go see it with the whole family." That's my point.
Okay.
Print it.
So you think
And for that reason,
the quality and the scale of the films releasing right now is not sustainable.
to say that we're not even close to like superhero saturation and Star Wars saturation is foolish.
I see. But you wouldn't counter that the movies that came out this year were very big deals that were super successful, right?
They were very big deals. Your stat was in North America, but like China's filling those seats. Their Chinese movie theaters is where you want to put your money.
Let me
Put us back on track, Chris.
Let me try to introduce more evidence, and I think there are some definitely holes you can put in this statistic, but I'll say it anyway. For the banner year movies had this year, with Avengers: Infinity War, it had the highest opening with 258 million gross.
I contributed to that. Yeah.
Despite the banner year movies had and the massive success of Infinity War's opening, the biggest grossing entertainment launched this year was a video game. It was Red Dead Redemption 2, which raked in $725 million in its opening 3 days.
Really?
Which is not quite, but close to 3 times what Avengers: Infinity War did in its opening weekend. So this is both are comparing across a 3-day window. And Red Dead isn't, when I think of what is a traditional mainstream appealing video game, Red Dead Redemption 2 does not check all the checkboxes. I think of your Call of Duties and your Fortnites. Mm-hmm. It is a heavily multiplayer. The emphasis is on multiplayer, so it's a social thing. Yeah. The matches are short, so you can dip in and dip out and get your fix in a relatively short amount of time.
Immediate gratification.
Yeah. Immediate gratification. And the mechanics are pretty conventional shooting mechanics, which have mainstream appeal. When you look at Red Dead Redemption 2, it launched without any multiplayer, although it did come in a beta form 2 weeks after launch. So initially it was a single-player game when the bulk of the sales occurred. It is a game that is not afraid to slow its pacing to molasses.
Take a bath.
Yeah. Its mechanics, it heavily emphasizes like life simulation mechanics that some people say are detrimental to the actual enjoyment of the game. It is a heavy emphasis on narrative and character development, which, according to howlongtobeat.com, if you mainline the story, skip the wealth of side content available, 40 it takes you 44 hours to slog through this game. If you play it more conventionally and do side stuff, the average playtime is 71 hours.
Wow.
So this is like an epic of the medium. Not exactly what I thought everyone in America would line up to play.
The blockbuster, yeah.
So what does this mean exactly? Does that, for lack of a better term, Red Dead Redemption 2 is what I would consider a more serious quote-unquote gamer's game. Does that mean like the number of people who want to be deeply invested into video games is a lot higher than I thought it would be?
Hold on, you said something gamer's game. My mind is racing for gamer's game. Super Hot is a gamer's game.
Yeah, Super Hot. I'd say Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Or Metal Gear Solid.
Yes. Yeah. And then Red Dead is just like a step to the left of it. And then, yeah, your Fortnite Call of Duties is all the way over there. Bring us back to the original question. That was a lot of information.
Yeah, it was.
So when do I anticipate your coworkers being like, have you played Into the Breach? Oh, yeah, it's a banger. Like, when do I anticipate that future?
Uh-huh.
Not soon. I think the next generation will just barely start to be, you know, everyone's still gonna see all the Spider-Mans, see all the what are other movies like Mission Impossible. It will definitely still be around. Everyone's gonna still see all those. Not everyone will be playing the next Minecraft. Oh, have you seen the next Minecraft?
What is the next Minecraft?
Oh, what's it called? It's called like Hyrule.
Zelda's
It's
world?
really gross. Can I pull it up on here? 1 second. Hightail. So we're watching the Hightail trailer.
Who developed this?
This is Hypixel. Oh crap! You can probably hear this. Or no, you can't hear it in the podcast. So look at how Minecrafty this is. This Minecraft.
Heavy influences here.
So what sets it apart? You just gotta wait until they start doing. This is actually really indicative of the progress that games will have as far as like the social. Well, I'll let you come to your own conclusions. But simply, yeah, it's just big Minecraft, some adventure elements, but not enough for you to be like, this is a game changer. Regular looking worlds, that's a little cinematic. Hey, cinematic, haha.
Cinematic.
Tying it back to movies. Just wait for like the text to pop up, because there's a point to be made. Now, this may look like cancer to us, but like all these kids are gonna play this game with their friends because it's got big multiplayer. And look, you can make your own battle royales. See?
Yeah.
It's basically Minecraft 2, Fortnite 2. And look at that in-game freaking...
They showed the development engine.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. You can watch videos together in it. And like make your own... It's machinima.
Yeah.
Kids are going to go nuts with this. So what does this mean?
Just as we wrap up this discussion, I guess my final question is, are the statistics that I quoted about the video game industry's monetary success versus my perception of it being the smaller industry to the general public, what explanation, if any, do you have that explains that discrepancy? Or are the statistics themselves maybe suspect?
You're referencing like why the big viewership but smaller industry?
Why are movies more ubiquitous than just like day-to-day life if it is true that the video game industry has the bigger launches and grosses more dollars? Because if you're grossing more dollars, you need more people spending those dollars. And if there were more people spending those dollars, it would be more ubiquitous.
Because movies have all the IRL DLC. What I mean by that is you have people's whose job it is to like write articles about, and I know like Polygon and Otaku, Kotaku are games journalists, but and journalism is just like one aspect of like a cottage industry. There's a lot more infrastructure for movies. Movies also have hot people in them, so that's all over your magazines. Mm-hmm. So you can not see a movie and know that Chris Pratt's chest looks great in Jurassic Park. You know, Arthur Morgan is not hot. Enough
Speak
to,
for yourself.
Enough to warrant, being on the cover of Newsweek. So I think that's also a reason why games industry also making big numbers, but you don't have, you might have like the merchandise, but kids aren't on Twitter, or like, the big splash that you feel, and that is indicative of your coworkers knowing like the ubiquity of movies. that's also thanks to like the news cycle and word of mouth. Like movies are a lot easier to talk about at the water cooler. Just being like, oh, a blah blah Quentin Tarantino, blah blah, Brad Pitt, blah blah. Who's a girl?
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson. It's a lot easier than freaking Atlas. A game was launched recently called Atlas. I don't even know how to describe it. I just saw one streamer like standing on a dock with like 17 shirtless people running around like it was a Ark. What's that survival game where you start with a rock and you can punch dinosaurs?
Ark Survival Evolved.
Right. So like that's you're not gonna be able to strike up a conversation about that game. Maybe you could strike up a conversation about Red Dead. Just it's not as easy as movies are easy to talk about. We have the social fabric is already there. Will we get some more stitches in the social fabric of video games? Yeah. And movies are becoming threadbare the more that the movie theaters are dying out. I'm so eloquent.
Yeah. Let me ask you this
Great
question.
points, Heath. I get 10 points.
A suspicion of mine. How many movies release in mainstream theaters every year?
No less than like 64 movies. Like mainstream movies.
Mm-hmm.
Not including like holiday specials or like they'll play like Friday the 13th or whatever. Yeah, no less than like 64 movies, which is small compared to games.
That was my suspicion. I think 64 games come out on Steam every day, give or take.
Well, on Steam, yeah.
Right. What I was thinking is the audience for video games is so much more subdivided that no one game achieves anywhere close to mainstream popularity compared to even the least popular movie, because the entire movie-going populace is congregating towards the relatively, compared to video games, few number of movies. They all achieve some level of ubiquity.
So everyone, do your part. Uninstall Into the Breach and install Rocket League so that we may surpass the movies.
Yeah, so I was thinking the video game audience is more distributed across a much greater number of titles, so therefore no individual title can be nearly as popular as a movie.
Two movie fans are going to have more to talk about than two game fans, and that's being really just
I suspect that's true though. Like, let's mention one of the biggest subgenres of video games that exist, MOBAs. I consider myself a video game enthusiast, and I don't know a single thing about League of Legends or Dota or Heroes of the Storm.
There's different lanes.
There are different lanes. Someone
That's
has
all we know.
Someone has to hang out in a jungle, apparently.
Yeah.
There's junglers.
Yeah. Whereas movie people, you can have like your indie darlings, but you're gonna have
more common ground.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You might not like this, like Scarface. Like you might not have seen them. Oh, what am I trying to say? Yeah, common ground. That's what it is. Did we do it?
I think so. That was good. I'm glad you brought you have a foot in games and a foot in TV and movies. So
I do.
I'm glad I was able to talk to you about this subject.
Like I wish I could have been more articulate about it. I doubt I'll be dead wrong. I might be wrong by like a year or so, but certainly unless the long arm of Disney is going to be able to grab all the moviegoers as they leave for their couches. And I trust that video games and streaming and watching gaming will just continue to grow. It's not going to become more niche or like exclusively more niche.
No, I don't think so.
As hard as it is to get into Like, I only just got a second console, whereas other people who are playing their PlayStation games and their Ouya games and their I almost said Ouya without cracking. I think the video games industry will always be smaller than the music and movies industry, but it will continue to grow and close that gap.
Okay.
Time for my question.
Okay. Wow. All right. We are setting a Mobius Tubes length record right here.
Well, it's good because like the episode 3, you can just condense it down to like, haha, Dishonored, controllers are fun. Here's our backstory. See you next episode. My question, and this is just like a teensy little question. I only got a couple of examples. It's about backtracking. And this is just to refer to, I played The Messenger, right? Another problem I had with The Messenger was it has a time mechanic where you go between the present and the future, and that changes the art style too, which is really cool. It goes from like 8-bit to 16-bit.
Whoa.
That's your Metroidvania a little bit. Or excuse me,
really
the
cool.
Metroidvania part would be like going into the future and then backtracking to get to like another part of the level, and then having to go back and jump in the time so that you have a quest item.
Yeah.
I only got so far in The Messenger. It's not my cup of tea. So there is backtracking in it, though. I checked it with a review. And then Dishonored 2 that we talked about last episode, you have to go through levels that you played in a previous game, albeit they're different, like after the story, but it is the same
you
level.
Are visiting the same locale, albeit at a different time.
So, is backtracking bad because it's a cheap an economic way for the game to extend its length or its experience via reusing assets? Undertale has no backtracking, and that's the perfect game.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I should mention the reason I brought up Undertale is because in the Wikipedia, Toby Fox was specific about not wanting to have backtracking. There's multiple endings and whatnot, but no backtracking. Your thoughts?
Personal preference, I prefer when games do not rely on backtracking. With that said, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, provided the game provides a justification for doing it. The real world economic reason is a developer can extend the length of a game without needing to continuously create brand new environments that require new assets.
We spent all this money on the first stage. We got to go back to it, but make it purple.
They get to reuse assets and environments they've already created and thus save development time. Metroidvanias usually do a good job justifying it because when you return to an old area, there has been you've acquired some sort of new tool that will open up this new area in different ways that were previously inaccessible to you.
Can you define Metroidvania for us one more time? Like it's like Super Metroid and it's like Castlevania.
Yes.
In which you have not this open world, but like a set layout, whether be it a space base or a castle.
They're typically
Is Shovel Knight a
2D
Metroidvania?
platforming games. I don't think Shovel Knight is a Metroidvania.
Because it has individual
levels that
as
you
opposed
traverse
to
through a world map.
Everything
is interconnected in a Metroidvania.
Okay.
But a typical hallmark is
I get the key.
There is not a single linear path. You've got some choice in which route you take first.
So I can go open that door.
And then when you return to an older area, you've usually acquired a new tool or skill that maybe there was this locked door that you can now open. So it gradually opens itself up, and it's a totally interconnected environment. Yeah, that's more or less the definition of a Metroidvania game. And I like that when you originally go into an area for the first time, and you get a sneak peek of places you're going to be able to go to later, but you can't get to just yet. So that provides the player with some like extra
Motivation
to keep playing. So that's, I think, a good example of justifying backtracking in a game. I guess another way would just to be you revisit an old area, but something has happened that it's so completely different that it gives you a new perspective. That would be another reason I would be totally fine with backtracking. But in general, I like to kind of continuously see new things when I'm playing a game.
My thoughts exactly. I can't think of a game that I really enjoyed backtracking other than maybe like Batman Arkham City, just to because I just enjoy that game so much, and to return to certain locations, maybe Arkham Asylum as well, because when Poison Ivy takes over, you got big plants that you got to fight, and when you have the Scarecrow gas, it makes the place seemingly different, but it's like the same level layout. I think that one does backtracking pretty well, but aside from that, just like avoid it if you can. But no one's ever like, what this game needs? Backtracking. It's always
true.
Like, okay, how can we make our 4-hour game 6 hours?
That is a very good point. I hadn't considered.
So I'm glad both questions were bangers, and potentially gonna bite us in the butt in the future with respect to yours. But let's end on with some listener emails.
Do you have the email pulled up?
I can.
I can get it if you would like.
I have stats in front of me. While Chris pulls up the email, I will just say that if you want to blast us on how dated our top 10 games we played in 2018 picks were, or rebuke us for our backwards prophetic claims that the games industry will not rise to its meteoric apex in the next 6 weeks, you can email us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. Will we read those emails, Chris?
We absolutely will read them, every single one.
Obligatory.
And we will then answer them on this very podcast, just like we are doing for Andrew, who wrote to us. I will paraphrase. I will distill his email down to its essence just because he rambles on a little bit here.
Okay.
He would like to know the meaning or significance behind the name of our podcast. Why is our podcast called Mobius Tubes?
I came up with a couple of ideas for the title, and I think I'll save the other title ideas for like episode 100. It just says like remember we were gonna call it blank, but you pulled the trigger on Mobius Tubes because I first put it on the list of candidates just because it's like a fun sounding name, could be applied to, it wasn't necessarily like the Chris and Heath game hour, just in case one of us died, or if we want to expand.
Yes, he wanted to make sure I was expendable.
Yeah. So it's fun sounding, applicable. It doesn't limit us with like names or direction, and it refers to a game, which is like a cool Easter egg. Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
It's your game.
Yeah, there's a board game out there that's existed since the late 70s called Cosmic Encounter.
Has it really been around since the 70s?
Yes.
Well, I mean, probably a more dated version.
Yeah, it has had several iterations. I have a copy of the most recent one made by Fantasy Flight Games. And it's a game about each player's different wacky alien race and then trying to establish foreign colonies on every player's planets.
It's a lot of fun.
It is.
What What's the roster of alien races? Is it bigger than Smash?
It is bigger than Smash.
Yo, come on, Reggie.
I think there's a little over 200 aliens now.
That's sick, because I've only ever played as like a dozen.
Yeah, the tagline for the game is like a game of infinite possibilities, because you'll never play the same game twice. And back in January of 2014, I hosted my first board game night while I was a senior in high school, and invited good friends over. Heath was among them. And at that very first game night, we played Cosmic Encounter.
Did we really?
Yeah. There were 5 of us there that night. And
how historic.
It was for all of us, it was our very first time playing. Not super familiar with the rules. And there's a card in Cosmic Encounter called Mobius Tubes, which gives you all of your spaceships back.
Because you have a limited number.
Yes, you have only 20, and you lose them over the course of the game.
If you're bad.
If you're a very unskilled player, yes. The game concluded with Heath very triumphantly yelling Mobius Tubes and slamming the card down.
Because I had lost all my ships throughout
Because you were begging for ships at that point.
Struggling. My fleet.
And I believe immediately after this happened, Heath got attacked and ended up causing the game to end, with a friend named Justin taking the victory. So Mobius Tubes ended up not saving the day in Heath's case, but he was very pleased about it at the time.
I've played future games with the alien race that are the masochists, who, if they lose all of their ships, they win the game. So when you're playing as them and somebody plays the Mobius Tubes card, it's like, kiss your chances of winning goodbye, because you have all these ships back now. Yeah, so Mobius Tubes was a highlight of one of the first tabletop games we played. We still play it. I saw it at the store when my parents were trying to pick out a game for relatives.
Yes, it's a timeless classic amongst the hobby board gaming circles.
Who makes Cosmic Encounter?
Right now it's produced by Fantasy Flight
Yo,
Games.
Fantasy Flight. Don't sue us for borrowing your trademarked card. Instead, maybe we'll come up with a deal. You send us some merch, and if we like it, they could use like promo code Chris. Just consider it.
Yeah, how could they turn that down?
Whose question was that? That was a good question.
That was from Andrew.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Andrew. That's probably, many listeners were probably wondering the very same thing.
That's it for mail this week.
Yeah.
Right?
That is it.
So if you wanted to follow up the question, go to mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. Let's end with games you're looking forward to playing in 2019.
Okay.
I'll start, because we might have some in common. I want to play Hades.
Okay.
And try that on the Epic Games Store and see how that is. Into the Breach, I remember last episode I was saying how I was going to play Into the Breach,
yes.
But then I got all these Devolver games.
You got sidetracked.
Broforce and Messenger. So I'm hoping to play Into the Breach. I'm hoping to eventually unlock Elite Smash Ultimate, and then as well Hotline Miami I have. But I should also talk about like games like way down the line in 2019.
Games that have not released yet. We've got things like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
That's not Bloodborne?
That's Japanese Bloodborne.
Right.
And we have Devil May Cry 5.
I will watch a Let's Play of it.
There is Far Cry New Dawn,
which is
post-apocalyptic Far Cry.
Which
apparently spoils the ending to Far Cry 5. The fact that this game exists.
Right. Because maybe not a character that died is back or whatever, but the nuke goes off.
The nuke goes off.
Right.
Which I didn't mind. I wasn't going to play Far Cry 5.
Who developed Far Cry?
Ubisoft.
Way to go, Ubisoft.
Other games that are coming. We have the long-anticipated Sony Bend Studio game, Days Gone, which is
What's
The
that look
Last of
like?
Us with a motorcycle.
Named Ellie, right? Yeah. Resident Evil. Do you care about Resident Evil?
I don't have an attachment to the
Me
franchise,
neither.
but I would like to play 7 at the very least. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It looks spooky, but
Nothing that's announced for next year is currently lighting me up. I will be chipping away at my backlog. On the Switch, I have Octopath Traveler
Hey!
to dive into. And this is going to sound like sacrilege coming from a Switch owner. I have not played Breath of the Wild yet.
well, me neither.
So maybe 2019 will be the year I do that. I've had it.
Since launch?
I've had Breath of the Wild since December of 2017, so not launch, but still over a year now.
That's outstanding.
And the reason I'm putting it off, it's received so much like praise for reinventing the open world genre. I'm afraid it's going to ruin open world games for me after playing it. Like I won't be able to put up with the conventions, so I am purposefully pushing it down the line.
Well, there's no chance that it would ruin like a game like Skyrim 2. I would think maybe if you played Breath of the Wild in its entirety, and then you'd like go back to play something like isn't it like a Mad Max game that's an open world?
There is.
Yeah, maybe that one would be like, it's no Breath of the Wild.
That's
I
very
can
much
see your
a
concern.
checklist game.
Right.
On the PlayStation 4, I have Detroit Become Human on my docket. I will be playing that next year at some point.
That would have
And
been game of the year if we could have picked games that I like to watch.
yeah, those are the things that are
Tropico
on the
6
horizon.
is coming out in like January. I might get it, although Tropico 6, like good on you for making it. I don't think it's going to be as much fun to play as it is to watch, which is baffling to some. But that's what I got for 2019. Is there any Assassin's Creed games coming out?
presumably, but they aren't usually announced at this point.
Right. E3 will be fun. Anyway,
E3 is going to be weird. No Sony.
right. So it's basically just like Microsoft and
Nintendo.
yeah.
All right. Well, this was the final podcast of 2018.
Well done, Chris. We ended it on a high note. This will be 2 hours plus, which was what I wanted.
A record.
Thank you for that. Thank you for coming so prepared. I hope people liked our picks. You know, I kind of feel bad putting Civilization 5 up there, but it's like Desert Island, like you talked about. Like I could play that game forever.
It's like your comfort food. It's an everlasting gobstopper for you.
Right.
Never gets old.
All right, let's wrap this up so I can go lose to more children in Smash.
Excellent.
Thanks for listening. Take it away, Chris.
Send us an email at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com, and until next time.